So today we have some big news. Apparently Sony is slashing the PSVR2 headset output after pre-order disappointment. So this is some relatively big news that just dropped today, which could be signaling a bigger issue potentially within the supplier chain.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a couple things with this. I say we get into the article. I got a few thoughts, but
All right, so Sony slashes PlayStation VR2 headset output after pre-orders disappointment. So, according to Bloomberg, Sony Group Corporation reduced projections for the initial launch of the PSVR2 headset dramatically after an early pre-order disappointment, signaling little improvement for the hyped but unproven virtual reality sector. The company halved its forecast for shipments of the PSVR2, which is set for a February 22nd, release. This quarter to about 1 million units, said people familiar with its deliberations. Sony had previously aimed to have 2 million headsets ready for the launch quarter and leverage its second generation headset to drive user growth and adoption for VR. The Tokyo based electronics giant has told a supply partner to expect reduced display panel orders, according to the people, who asked not to be named as the information is not public. The company now plans to ship around 1.5 million units between this April and March next year. They added, though that figure may be adjusted for further in response to demand. Consumers globally have taken to VR less rapidly than initially hoped, held back in part by a lack of titles that showcase the technology. After diving in 2022, worldwide shipments of augmented and virtual reality headsets are expected to grow 32% to 12.8 million units this year, according to IDC estimates. The market is currently dominated by Meta Platform Inc.'s Quest range, with nearly an 85% share. Sony does not rank among the top 5 producers, and its first generation PSVR has failed to secure even a 1% share. Sony began accepting PSVR2 pre orders on an invitation basis in November, but it soon relaxed conditions so that anyone wishing to buy the gadget could order one. The PSVR2 will work only with Sony's PlayStation 5 console, which starts at $399. The headset is priced at $549 with less than a month to go until the PSVR2's release. Most stores are still taking pre-orders without a wait list, where hotly anticipated gaming gadgets are usually limited in supply at launch. It's a mouthful of an
yeah,
article, but essentially,
yeah, it is.
this seems like it signals they didn't get the pre-orders they expected, and probably due to it's expensive on top of the $500-600
Yeah,
dollars you're already putting into the PS5, just that
yeah,
alone without any games.
yeah. That's a problem right there. You just said it. You've got $500 plus tax for your PS5, which just locally here in some places it's more. You're looking at about $549, and then you got $550 for your headset plus tax, depending on where you're at. So you're well over $1,000 just getting into. Then you got the games. You've got the other accessories if you want to get additional accessories, like you'll still have an incorporation of other things going on with the headset. You got to buy your games, So Horizon, Call of the Mountain is a big one that people are talking about right now,
Yeah.
and it's an expensive investment to get into the VR with PlayStation. At least it's expensive. Period, but it's expensive when you require an additional, actual gaming system.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's crazy. So
The more I think of it, it's a mixture of it's too expensive, and there might be good VR games. None of them are really gonna like draw you in, because if you're not already a fan of the Breath of the Wild series that they're doing,
yeah,
you're not really gonna be a fan of this VR game. So you're already
yeah,
somewhat niche. And it seems like you would need to either pull a old PlayStation mascot in a new exclusive game, or something that you're pulling in like your big seller, something you know is gonna sell.
Well, I mean, Call of the Mountain is that, right? But is it enough to
It I don't
to require let's just give it $1,200, right? That's fair.
Yeah.
It's a fair amount with the game and everything else tax. So you're looking at about $1,200 to get into one game. That's the big game. Is that enough? Absolutely not. I mean, the PS5 itself is not enough for people to with God of War and Horizon and some of these other games, Ratchet and Clank, those are still not system sellers for certain people, right? That's the
Yeah.
majority of the audience. We're a little bit different. We're really into gaming, and for me, it doesn't necessarily have to have an exclusive. Like, maybe I'll choose my third party game on PS5 now. Like, we're a little bit different. We're not the majority of people. We're the 1% of 90%.
But even for me, it's just not. I couldn't. I was already soured on the first VR, and this doesn't seem like it's. It might be a little bit better, but it's just too expensive a price tag to get into it after everything else. That's like, it's like 5 or 6 games I could buy instead at full price games. It's just
Sure.
like it's like a niche, but there's cheaper ways to go about VR, and it just seems
So
like they're just. I don't know. It's just the cost alone seems like it's just too much of a barrier to entry right now for most people,
yeah, you're looking at it. Your view is the majority outside of you having experienced a PSVR one.
which was
Um,
terrible.
it didn't sell, you right? So 99% of PS4 users never played a PSVR. So you did buy one, and you've got that opinion from that 1%. And a lot of people said they didn't like it. There were good games. I played some good games
Yeah,
on it. I could not own one.
I
Right?
would
I missed.
say maybe terrible is too extreme, but it's just like there
Yeah.
wasn't enough there for me to the 300-400. I don't remember how much I spent on it. Just seemed like a waste of money in the end because it's like you get it, but what games were there just didn't really hold me, and I ended up just after a month or so I dropped it, never picked it back up, and now it's just collecting dust in the closet.
That's the majority of the view on it is collecting dust. I don't think I've heard anybody not say that it ended up collecting dust, right? So I think that for me, I'm looking at the view as this is a little bit complicated, but I kind of miss the PS4 as a whole, which sounds weird to say, right? Like,
Yeah,
I miss the PS4. I was pretty late on it. There was a multitude of reasons for that. I won't get into that right now, but I kind of miss the PS4 generation for the most part. I did end up having an Xbox One pretty late. I had a Wii U for a majority of that and a 3DS, so that was my kind of experience with that generation. But I did not get to actually own and experience 99.5% of the PSVR games that did come out. Um, so I'm looking at the view as okay, so I'm going to have this opportunity to experience a ton of PSVR 1 games that are being remastered. It's not even really a port, they're being remastered with the resolution, the frame rate and all that stuff over to PSVR 2, plus all the titles for that. Really, the biggest thing I'm looking at is being able to have that access to make content on. Like, it's to have that. It's going to be a big thing. It's going to be huge. I do fully believe that this is, going to be eventually a much bigger step for VR than the PSVR one was.
I
I can already tell. Just people are actually excited about it. Like, I was actually getting a proper frame rate, and proper resolution. That was the biggest thing, right?
yeah
PSVR, the resolution was like sub HD resolution. Like,
yeah.
you were working with 30 frames and games that look like they worked on the PS2s.
But it just seems like it's just not going to take off as far as like the mass market because obviously we could be interested in it, but it's just too expensive at a mass market
It
level.
is.
And there's just enough
Yeah.
people who could just be like, I don't see the point with this. I dabbled in it. It's just too expensive a gimmick to really get me on board. After all this money I already have to spend, it just seems like they're asking too much, and it just feels like it's gonna be a financial flop for Sony long term. Regardless of it might be a
Yeah.
fantastic experience, but I just with the cost right now, I just don't think it's gonna be financially viable for them long term. It just feels like that cost has to come down drastically for it to be
So
more appetizing for like the average person.
I think that cost has to come down. So we're going to have to cut the cost for them. Like, it's going to have to dramatically cut down. The fact that it's $50 more than the PS5 is an issue, right? Like,
Yeah,
I saw that price tag and I'm like, what? $50 more than
did
the actual system you need to
did
run
I was
the
gonna say
accessory?
did they put too much technology in this where it's amazing, but
It's
it's
yeah, the
too expensive to
technology's
make
there, but
money
the
off of it.
price, it doesn't make sense for the average consumer. So, like, if they can't cut the cost for them to be able to cut the MSRP for us at this point at $549, absolutely will flop. There's no way. I mean, the average consumer can't afford a that that'd be $1,050 just MSRP plus tax plus games. Like, no,
It's
it
just not
just doesn't
affordable.
work. It just doesn't work. Like, it doesn't make sense.
And most games that you want to play aren't going to be VR exclusive anyways. There's like VR add-ons. There's good standalone games, but the games people want to play, they're not really attached to VR, so there's no hard incentive to go into VR.
Yeah, I think it just depends on where Sony goes, right? So we're only into year three, PS5, the very first month of year three. I think that, well, not exactly 3 months at point.
No,
Sorry,
yeah,
man.
I got
Can
you.
we cut here? Hold on. Cut here. That sounds. I know somebody else says. So we're going to 2023 with the console being released in 2020. I think that we have to be able to have this console first of all readily available on shelves. Yes, I'm finally seeing them, but I think that's where it starts. You gotta have these consoles openly on shelves where they're sitting, right? At the point where they're just sitting there, and nobody's buying it immediately within the hour, right? I also think that just generally the cost has to be cut. They got to offer more for us to want to get it. It's got to be a heavy volume of games. There's got to be, I don't know, some other experiences. PlayStation Home, bring that to VR. That's a system seller right there. I can tell you right now that at least 15%, which would be a mass majority of people playing, like that's a big deal when you think of the millions of people. Bring something like PlayStation Home to the PSVR2. Bring it back, relaunch it. A service to watch with that. Bring in some of the viewings with Netflix. Those Netflix like type VR apps where you can watch movies, and yeah, bring in the experiences, bring in the games, and then you'll bring in the people that are going to want to buy this. That's
Yeah.
that's all I got to say.
I'm just saying it's just I think it's a mixture of you're gonna need people to review it and really love it. You're gonna need a steady library of games, and you're gonna need that cost to come down before it probably takes off for you. It might sell over time, but it's probably gonna be a trickle. It's expensive for a lot of people, especially with everything going on with the economy right now. It's like that's a lot of extra money that not a lot of people are gonna have for the foreseeable future without saving up. So I mean, only
Yeah.
time will tell. It could be long term in 4 years. At the end of the PS5's life cycle, it'll be like this sold fantastically well. It's just as of right now, it just doesn't look promising for Sony.
I do hope that changes around because I want to enjoy VR. I want it to work for them. I want it to take off. I think the concept is great. What I played for the most part has been great, but with issues. And I think there's a lot of potential, but a lot has to change, and this cost has to come down
Yeah,
for the average consumer. So
yeah. So hey, let us know what you think. You agree, you disagree, you have something specific you want to mention about PSVR. Let us know down in the comments below. Give us a like, give us a sub. We'll see y'all next time. Peace.
peace.